Hello guys, this is Project England Rising, and I'm here today with Duke of Durham again, and the Observer, an Observer returns. Sorry. Sorry about that. I had it on in background. Yeah, we're Duke of Durham and an Observer returns. Now, Observer returns. Can you hear me, okay, mate?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So Duke has known you for a long time. I've only known you for like a few weeks. I saw your videos, but
Hmm.
but you're somebody. I think you used to have a lot of followers at some point, and then you've come back onto YouTube. So
Hmm.
can you just tell people what you identify as politically, and how you got started, and why you've come back into making videos?
All right. Well, I'd say about for 9 or 10 months, a year or two ago, I had a show on Renegade Broadcasting. Not to take anything away from Kyle or anybody else that's there. Um, it was a great experience, and my YouTube channel was kind of a springboard to get on there and to reach out to other whites, other disaffected whites, and to help them to understand that they're not really alone. There are other people out there who care, who see what's being done to us, and that there are ways to resist, there are ways to fight back, and that victory is inevitable so long as we supply the force necessary, so long as we do whatever we can to preserve our heritage, our people. My political background is I used to be a frothing at the mouth Marxist evangelical Christian
Hmm.
who believed race was only a social construct. Um, in education and life taught me differently, and I left Christianity and I embraced what many would call racial socialism. My political ideology, I strongly lean towards National Socialism.
Yep.
And if you want to say my philosophy, is kind of a mix of National Socialism and creativity. The faith, the philosophy from Mr. Ben Klassen, if you know who he was. That's pretty much it. I needed about a year off after moving out of Babylon, my multicultural hellhole that I was living in that I knew I had to escape, or one day I would wake up with a knife between my ribs. So I worked my ass off, not to put too fine a point on it, and made it happen. I saved up many thousands of dollars to make it happen. I moved with no job, no home, no family, nothing waiting for me. And I made the trek, I made the journey, and I moved to a better place, a wider, brighter place. Um, and that's where I currently find myself.
So,
And
like, did you end up stopping for a while because you got disheartened, or?
partially, yes. It's easy to fall into that trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Over time, especially when we read about all the rape statistics
Yeah. Yeah.
against our women and
Yeah.
all the violence in Europe, in particular, what the Zog media would call a migrant crisis, we all know is really an invasion, a third world invasion. So when you get only one side of it, you start to wonder. You start to wonder, am I crazy? And sometimes you need to retreat to nature, and that's what I did. My church is the forest, and going there, knocking down some trees, splitting wood, um, getting back in shape. That was a good part of healing that I didn't know I needed. But once I found it, I realized it was exactly what was necessary. And so now that I have done that, I am back, and I would like to continue the struggle in any capacity I may have a use for in terms of being able to help. And that's ultimately what I'm about helping this struggle and getting it off the ground.
What are your thoughts on Donald Trump?
It's gonna break some hearts, I guess. We all want a savior. We all want someone to believe in. We all want a leader. Donald Trump, in my estimation, is out for Donald Trump. He is there to establish a legacy like the Kennedys in the United States, known as Camelot. I'm sure you've heard the term,
Yep.
taking away from the ancient English stories. But Trump is out for Trump. He's allowed his family members to marry the enemy. He doesn't see them as the enemy, so of course he's allowed them to marry the enemy. I think it's too late for him. He has worked with the enemy his entire life. He's a billionaire, for goodness sake, and that doesn't mean he's necessarily a bad person. It just means what he values is not what the rest of us value. He's not on our side. He talks a big talk about building a wall on the southern border. He talks about you have to go back to all these third worlders, but he's talking from one side of his mouth to the other. He says, "Well, you have to go back." Then he says, "I love Mexicans. They're
Yeah.
beautiful people." Blah blah blah. So he's buttering both sides of the bread, and he's getting his hands very messy. He's very charismatic. I'll give him that. He is an alpha male, which is what this country really needs. It's what
Yep.
we want. It's what we haven't seen in many, many generations since perhaps JFK. Not that I agree with everything he did. He was at least an alpha male. And that's what we want. We want a leader, a strong man who will make the hard decisions, who will not cry like a little bitch, who will not spend his life waiting until he's 50 years old, playing video games in his mother's basement, LARPing. We don't want that. We want someone to take charge. We want someone of action. We want a Sir Oswald Mosley. We want an Adolf Hitler. We want a real leader, and Trump is a caricature of that. I don't think he thinks he's a caricature. I think he's just being Donald Trump. But we are so desperate. We are so hungry for salvation that we will latch on to anything. And it doesn't. It's not that we're naive or stupid. It's just we're hurting.
But do you
And
but
yeah, go ahead.
do you think at this point, but like in America, it's so bad that Donald Trump would be a good thing, like for shifting the Overton window as well.
Yes,
Um,
yes. I've heard this. I've obviously, yes, I've heard the shifting of the Overton window, and there's been a lot of murmuring about that on the internet, and I think there's some legitimacy behind that. And if we can use him as a mule to carry our message, whether he likes it or knows it or not, I think uh, that's fantastic. But more is the pity to anyone who believes he's going to do anything willingly to save our people, to reverse this and turn the clock back to 1940. It's not going to happen. Well, it's not.
well, like as I'm watching it, I think if it comes to power, it's going to start causing riots, and it's gonna set off events what'll and also he's become a voice for white anger, and
Yes.
he's definitely become a vehicle for white anger.
I'd say more a lightning rod, actually. He hasn't explicitly mentioned that he sides with us or anything along those lines that I have heard, and I've studied him a fair bit out of morbid curiosity and in entertainment, to be frank. He's very entertaining, very likable, very charismatic, um, but he is a pragmatist to a fault. He is saying exactly what he knows needs to be said in order to get the silent white majority angry so that they will elect him and give a voice. He wants to basically redirect our legitimate fury at what is being done to us, our dispossession in our own ancestral homelands. And for those of you living in the UK or Europe, the United States, where I currently live, we carved it out of nothing. It was a wild, barren wilderness,
Yep.
and we made it a world power out of our own will and ingenuity from the best of the fruit of Europe. So for us to willingly give up this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful trophy, um, it's infuriating.
Yeah, that's the thing that annoys me, really, when I hear criticisms of Trump, because people will say, oh, but America has always been a nation of immigrants, yet they don't understand that immigration itself isn't a bad thing, it's just the character of immigration. There is a difference between immigration from Europe, which is what built America, and then unlimited immigration from Mexico.
Absolutely, and every other third world cesspool around the world.
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, will you be voting?
I haven't decided yet. Obviously, I would say if I'm given the choice, if someone puts a very well-made firearm to my head and it's loaded, yeah, I'm going to choose Trump over Hillary, but that's really not a choice. I don't have Sir Oswald Mosley running for office. I don't have Adolf Hitler running for office. I have Donald Trump, Donald Duck as he's been called, rightfully so. He's a fake. He's a fraud. He's likable, but people confuse likability with character. He has no character.
Yeah, I think the age of true democracy is dead, really, because the powers that be aren't going to let another 1933 situation take place where they will be overthrown by democracy. They will do everything in their power to stop that sort of thing happening again, which is why I do believe that the Brexit vote will be rigged, most likely. This will be the last time that I vote, because I will be voting in this election, but never again after that, because really there is no point.
I agree. I think if democracy made a difference, they would have outlawed it by now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's at this point. Like I've said it before, we're not living in democratic nations anymore. At this point, it's they're like multicultural dictatorships, is what I call them.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. We're starting to turn into banana republics, really.
Yeah.
You see the deterioration. It's different in the United States because it's so enormous compared to the whole of Europe. It's difficult for an American to understand the European field of mind. And you can drive only a couple hours, and you've gone through 3 or 4 countries in America. That's how states are.
Yeah.
And in the United States, there are several states that are very draconian and dictatorial, where you can't own certain firearms, you can't defend yourself if you're attacked, and if you do, you go to jail. You have to prove your innocence. You don't have to prove your guilt. They try to make you prove your innocence. Due process it's almost dead. It's a zombie in the United States, especially in there are several states. California is really bad. I understand New York State's really bad too. But that being said, I'm not trying to be defeatist here. I'm just recognizing what is, and that people shouldn't get their hopes up over Trump. If he shifts the Overton window, marvelous. That's awesome. That's more than we would ever get on our own, because he's getting a lot of press. He's getting a lot of butthurt for the Marxists. He's pissing them off, and I enjoy this. I won't lie. These chairs are delicious to me. But that being said, it may just end up being what's needed to push things and get the ball rolling, which is awesome. I think that's great, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, we've had a few figures like that in Europe, insofar as shifting the Overton window, be it Nigel Farage in Britain, or Le Pen in France, or Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. And although they do still support multiculturalism and that sort of thing, but they have made the topic of immigration acceptable to talk about in the eyes of normal people, which is very important.
Yes.
Because like it's something that as soon as people get talking about it, then like we win by default in a way, because the reality and facts are on our side. And like multiracialism, it's such a blatantly like shitty thing that like we win by default, kind of, just when it starts.
Well, it was like you were saying the other day, we have facts on our side, we have logic on our sides, we have reality on our sides, we have history on our sides, we have all the trump cards here. It's just we have to find a level playing field to play those cards, and that's what we're getting with the Overton window being shifted.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. It will never, the enemy, make no mistake, the enemy will not allow a level playing field. They will never fight fair. They will fight dirty. They will do whatever it takes to prevent us from reasserting our right to exist. I do believe shifting the Overton window is in our best interest. I do believe talking about immigration is a damn fine start, particularly in a lot of these states, not states, these nations in the EU, UK, that you can be prosecuted just for your opinions. We need to get off that train. We need to jettison those laws somehow.
Yeah, I think it's just raising awareness as well, because about a month ago I was reading a story, and there's this tiny island just off the coast of Scotland. I think it had about 200 residents on, and one of the residents, he posted on Twitter that he wasn't happy with the fact that the government was bringing in hundreds of Syrian refugees onto his tiny Scottish island, and then they arrested him for it. And I think when normal people hear these stories, they do start to think, you know, along a similar line of thought as to what people right of censor would normally think.
Yeah, I agree to an extent, but where are you see what happens on New Year's Eve in Paris, right, Duke?
Yeah.
England Rising. You see what's done to Paris. You see all these cars burned up. You see all these people raped, all this destruction. My question is this. My question is, what will it take for whites to finally get sick of it, to have enough? I think it's going to take something major like football being stopped, or food. I mean, McDonald's no longer serving overweight Britons. Not that you two are, but you know what I mean. It's going to take something drastic, and I'm hoping for that because I hate fast food, and I think playing football is fun. But watching other people play it is kind of pointless, unless you know them, unless they're your family and you invest in them like that. But I think we're too sated. We're too sated. We're too comfy, and we need to get back to a more Spartan way of living in order to turn this, I think.
It's a good question what you ask. What will it take for whites to kick off? And it's a question that is asked a lot. Like for England specifically, I think when it comes to native English people, they are very angry, very miserable, depressed, enraged at the situation. But people feel helpless, and also there's no vehicle to harness it all. And people and as communities have been atomized, so nobody. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's powerless and atomized, and there's nothing to harness it all. But people are aware things are seriously wrong.
Well, if you look at the responses to whenever there's a terrorist attack, so for example with Belgium or with France, the reaction was always something along the lines of changing their Facebook profile picture to the tricolour or something like that. Then there'd be a couple of days of people that would never normally be political explaining on social media as to why they don't like Islam and that sort of thing. And it sort of dies down after a couple of days. They just forget about it and get on with their normal, boring life.
Yeah, that's the problem of a 24-hour news cycle. We are inundated with too much information. It's easy to forget unless there's an anniversary and you're reminded by the media or something along those lines. That's part of the problem. There is too much media. There's too much information. There's not enough whispering among the common people in the taverns. We need that.
Yeah. And it's the media is totally suppressed as well, because given for example the city that I live in, just last week a Syrian raped a 14-year-old girl, but it wasn't in the news at all.
Of course not. Of course not. That would go against their narrative, and they want to desensitize us to this. Let's wind the clock back about 500 or 600 years, gentlemen. What would either of you fine Angles do if you had one of your sisters or even cousins that suffered that attack from an invading Moor?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
What would happen?
Well, just
it's time to rally the clan, really, get the swords and axes out.
Just like 60 years ago in England, if that had have happened, people would have just been like lynching them on the streets. If that had happened 60 years ago.
It's a different breed. This is the MTV generation. This is the doped-up Zoloft generation. The complacent, weed-smoking, beer-swilling, football-chanting, stupid masses. And it's true. The masses are asses. This is what we have to work with, unfortunately. But I do believe there is hope. If there was no hope, I wouldn't give a shit. If there was no hope, I would just fuck off in the middle of the woods and just wait for it to all end. But I believe there is hope. There's more hope than we give ourselves credit for. We just need to inspire enough white people to actually live a good life and to make a positive difference through the production of children, through the reassertion of the family unit. These things, we take them for granted. Oh, that you can't save the white race with more babies. Bullshit. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you have enough white babies, they won't have the balls to try shit when you outnumber them 8-2. We need to produce more. We need to have stronger families. We need to be more isolationist. We need to live off the grid as much as is possible. We need to arm ourselves so we can defend ourselves. We need to do whatever it takes in order to survive, because they won't let us.
That's why America is a really important element to all this, because you guys have guns, which like we don't, of course.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Oh, we love them.
So and it's a good thing. So you can defend yourself, and you could also carry out some kind of uprising. So I wonder if whatever happens starts in America, possibly.
I honestly don't know the future, my friend, but what I will say is this. I have hope. I have hope that things can change, and no one can predict the future. No one could predict a failed artist in the 1920s in Weimar, Germany, would become the leader of an incredible movement that would make the world tremble. No one could have predicted that.
I think that our enemies have made the biggest mistake that an enemy can make, in the fact that they have already assumed that they have won when the battle is far from over.
I think that's great, honestly. I encourage all enemies listening, please push more race mixing, push more of that shit in our face. Eventually, we're going to snap. It's not me saying it, it's human nature. You can only push a dog into a corner so much before he snaps. I don't care if he's a chihuahua, I don't care if he's a pit bull. You're going to push it too far, and you're going to end up getting hurt. So let them do that. And they're going to do it anyway, because they have no, their hubris is unimaginably large. And that's why they've been kicked out of so many countries for as long as they've existed.
Yeah, but I agree with that, yeah. But going back to what Project England Rising said about uprisings, I think if there was an uprising, let's say, in somewhere like Germany or Sweden, I think that would be hugely unpopular at first, but that would then go on to inspire others, because if you look at history, I'll give you an example with Ireland. In the 1916 uprising, when the Irish Republicans, took control of Dublin and essentially killed a lot of British soldiers and put the city out of business for a whole week. The reaction from the Irish public was one of hatred for their movement. But then as problems continued, as World War I continued and things got worse, the Irish people decided to pledge their whole support, and these people became martyrs. And even to this day, they are worshipped as heroes on the anniversary of the uprising. And I think we can expect a situation like that.
My admiration for the IRA is enormous. There's a lot we can learn from the IRA, aside from the whole brothers fighting brothers over religion thing. That's where I kind of draw the line. Yeah. I think our race should be our religion, as our enemies have done. We need to take a page from their playbook in order to survive.
I think that as we get down, as it really starts to get bad, I think we will see. I mean, like just like a little thing, observer. Like we have to be careful when we talk about this kind of stuff in England.
Certainly.
But yeah, as it gets bad, I think there will be paramilitary white groups forming.
Well, we can already see the start of that, because with the migrant rapes at the likes of Syrian train stations, there was about 200 Swedish men, which was quite surprising actually if you look at the state of Swedish men, and they were forming groups to go and protect the women. And you can see it in Germany as well, because I think there's been a lot of arms selling in Germany recently, and people starting to form themselves into these groups that go out at night and patrol and look after German women.
In Austria, sales of Glocks, which are domestically produced in Austria, and pepper spray are going through the roof to women. Women are buying Glocks. Women are buying pepper spray in incredible numbers. Glock is actually backed up with demand domestically, because they have foreign orders they have to meet, yet they still want to produce for the domestic market. There are good parts in the background that are not being shown, because that would boost our morale. We are their enemy because we dare to continue existing. But we need to keep heart, take heart that there is hope. We should never forget that.
Yeah, well, the Austrian Nationalist Party was just a couple of thousand votes out of winning the election a couple of weeks back.
And that was, of course, rigged. There was voter fraud all over the place. They're not going to allow somebody like that to be elected. You know
Yeah.
it.
Of course.
Yeah, someone touched up, like one of you brought that up, and I think that is right. Those in power, they will not allow nationalism to rise using their quote-unquote democratic system.
Well, they've spent
Correct.
they've spent too much on their projects to let them fall through at the last hurdle.
Absolutely.
That is,
And
that is
I think there's a certain amount of Kabbalistic, frickin' Zulu, jigamajoo, frickin' nonsense that they have in their mind that they have to do this, that, and the other in order to bring back their Messiah and all this crap. And it's their God. That's everything to them. And they will stop at nothing until we are destroyed, Europe is destroyed, all the Goyim are destroyed. And we need to keep that always in mind.
What is the atmosphere in America when you go in a black area? Can you feel the hatred towards you?
Oh, well, it's basically keep your distance. Never enter those areas in the first place if you can help it. What else? Well, I think that about sums it up. They're getting more snooty, more violent. Ever since Obama was elected, they become empowered, and their morale has been boosted because they feel they can do anything because of our Attorney General, Eric Holder, who doesn't want to prosecute Bantus because it would make them look bad. So there's no justice. They're not going to play by the rules. We should give up on the thought that they're going to play by the rules. They don't believe in fair play. They don't believe in. They want to stack the deck, and that's only natural. I mean, let's be honest here. Even in the past, with the exception of certain things here and there, whites, when they did fight each other, it was pretty much a bunch of battling of equals. There's a mutual respect, maybe a gritting respect in some cases, such as with the French and the English. But that being said, it was understood that we were all gentlemen, and then once the battle was done, we could shake hands and, okay, we lost this one, and all of that, and we could go on about our business. It's different now. They're playing for keeps, and they're playing for total annihilation, total destruction. They want a scorched earth policy to be brought to fruition. They want us all dead. It's that simple. We need to understand that. They want us all dead. They want you dead. They want me dead. They want every white dead. Even the liberal ones who are pro-multiculturalism, they want every one of us gone.
They really are useful idiots. They are the liberals.
Yes.
I think if Lenin did indeed coin the word "useful idiot," he was scarily right.
He was. He absolutely was. Unfortunately, they're fed this media, and that's all they know.
It's still hard to actually try and get into a mindset of the quote-unquote leftists and liberals. It's just such an unnatural, irrational mindset what they're in.
No, don't tell me. I used to be one a few years ago, my friend. I know all about it.
Yeah. So what was that like? Going through a process of, and what influences helped that?
It was very difficult. There was a lot of cognitive dissonance, that term thrown around a lot in these circles. I fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it, and I kept fighting it. I'm very stubborn. I'm always right in my mind, but I had to accept that we're not all the same, that my religion was a lie, at least as far as I interpreted it. If somebody else finds solace in Jesus Christ or whatever religion, more power to them, so long as they care about the race first. I don't care what your religion is. But I started off going to the American Renaissance website after, I think it was Obama was elected in 2008, and I was reading about the Black Crime Report and how this wasn't being reported on the mass media, and I just kept reading and reading, and I stumbled on Ramsey Paul, who has since disabused himself of the burden of actually caring for his people by his own statements. But that's neither here nor there. He's very entertaining, like Trump, very entertaining, but he's a pragmatist. But it was several of these things, these coming to Jesus moments, if you will, ironically. And I came to the conclusion that Jews were a race. They were a religion and a race. I came to a conclusion we fought on the wrong side in World War II. No one told me these things. I just researched them on my own. And I came to the conclusion that there is a program to destroy us, and it has been in play for many, 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 many hundreds of years, probably predating Rothschild, the House of Rothschild. And we need to do whatever we can to sabotage it, to put something in the gears, to at least slow it down, to buy us time so that we can rally some support to do something.
That's the difference. What I've seen, like within white nationalists, American white nationalists, and white nationalists in England and Europe, we think as the Muslims and the non-whites in general who are the main enemy because they're taking over towns and cities, etc. But American white nationalists tend to see Jewish people as the main enemy. That's just like a contrast kind of thing.
Well, if you look, everywhere, every Western country, and even in some Eastern countries, you'll see them. You'll see these Khazars. You'll see these fakers, these pretenders to the throne. They'll hide behind names like Gould and Goulding and other names like Silber, the German word for silver, or Silverstone, or Silverstein, or Perlman, or Pearl, or Greenfield. All these names, and they'll even take names such as Hutchinson, and they love to take Gentile names. But you have to do a little bit of digging to understand that they are at the top of they're the capstone of the pyramid in terms of politics, the media, the military, the financial industry. I call it the usury industry to be more fair. Entertainment. That's why I say you can't really trust anyone. You shouldn't really trust anyone. You shouldn't believe in anyone. Believe in our forefathers. Believe in our ancestors. Believe in people like Dr. William Luther Pierce, Commander George Lincoln Rockwell, Adolf Hitler, Hess, Goring, all these people that came before us that set a great foundation, a great thing we can build upon. Let's not get tangled up in getting fooled today with somebody who claims to be something and they're really not. Well, is this person 1/8 this or 1/16 that? Or you don't have to ask these questions when you go to the past. In a purer time, a better time. It wasn't perfect, but it was a better time. When you look at Sir Oswald Mosley and you see what he did in the little time he was allotted on this planet Earth. I know he lived a healthy age, but to me, he could have lived to be 1,000 years old, and he still would have died too soon. When you see what people like that have accomplished with the power of their will, with the power of their persuasion, with their fellow countrymen, you see there's something worth fighting for. And you know the average Briton back when Mosley was campaigning, they probably didn't care either about nationalism. They probably didn't care about, well, I don't care if we go to war. It's not really that big a deal, blah, blah. They swallow what the BBC tells them. It's really not, it's not difficult to understand that things are a lot of the same way they were in the past. I think the problem is, again, the 24-hour news cycle and all the degeneracy that is pushed by it make it seem like it's worse. And it is worse. Don't let me mistake. Don't mistake me. It is worse. But I think we require just the same kind of persuasion we had in the past. That's all.
I suppose it's a double-edged sword with the media. It's good that there's a lot of sources, but the enemy is they're kind of in charge of the media, aren't they? So it all goes by their narrative type thing.
That's good with the fact that the independent media, the internet, is flourishing.
Yeah.
I think I read a survey not too long ago. I think it was about 6% or 2% of Americans that trust the mainstream media now.
Yeah, that was a very telling stat. It was 6%. Only 6% of people trust the media.
That's no surprise. With all the lies they've been caught in, and even they have agreed that they've lied about certain things. Dan Rather lying about George Bush's military records and getting caught and losing his job. I mean, they put their hand in the cookie jar and they've been caught on so many occasions. We've come to expect it, and so we don't have faith in them. We don't believe in them. So people will flock to controlled opposition like Alex Jonestein, Infowars.com. They'll flock to whatever, and that was part of what I woke up with too. By the way, the NWO, the New World Order, it was really a Jew World Order. It's their plan, and it's what they want, but they call it the New World Order.
When it comes to Alex Jones, I mean, he's worth mentioning because he's got so much. He's built up such a big thingy. I think because he's not racially aware, he doesn't.
Well, he can't be. He's married to a Jewess.
And his boss is Jewish.
Yeah, and his wife's a Jewess.
And because he's not got that racial awareness, he thinks that he like looks at things and thinks it's all. I don't know. He just can't put things in place because he's not racially aware.
Well, here's what I think. I understand. I saw Alex Jones when he was very young on YouTube. I mean, he was maybe 18. He was maybe 180 pounds if he was an ounce. He was very small, but he was a football player, and he was starting his show on shortwave, I think it was, and I could see he believed it. I could see everything he said, he believed it, or he was a damn fine actor. But now that I've seen him lately, he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe it. He doesn't care. He's doing it just to sell more, water filtration and survive the coming apocalypse. Buy this now. Buy gold. That's what he wants to do. He wants you to visit his sponsors, owned by the you-know-whos. His boss is a you-know-who. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. He's not on our side either. He's just a sideshow freak, entertainment. He's likable though, for a freak, for a traitor.
Did you see his debate with David Duke?
No, I did not. I heard Duke mop the floor with him though.
Oh, he did completely. Alex Jones essentially took on like a persona of an SJW. He was really regressive, and David Duke did completely destroy him.
Yeah, David Duke is soft compared to what I would say, what I would do, what I advocate. David Duke is a fucking teddy bear. He's soft nationalism. He's not a wuss or anything. I think he's a good man, but he has to be the mainstream voice for what we advocate. That's the role he fulfills, and that's great. There have to be those roles. Some people work behind the scenes. Some people just make YouTube videos. Some people are out in the streets getting their asses kicked and kicking asses. The Antifa. It's not hard, Antifa. They're all vegan. So everyone has their role in this struggle. My thing is fight in any capacity you can. Do whatever you can within your legal means, disclaimer, to affect positive change. They talk about, these SJWs talk about making positive change for homosexual rights and bestiality rights and pedophile rights and all these other sick things they're pushing for. Let them do that and let us do our thing. We have what we fight for, and we need to understand every time we see a white child in a stroller, we see a beautiful white lady with, married with kids, that's what we're fighting for right there. That's what should inspire us. It shouldn't be what we own. It shouldn't be our title. It shouldn't be the amount of digital zeros in our bank account, our British pounds or our U.S. dollars. What should matter to us is survival and preserving what is beautiful and noble. Nothing else matters.
Exactly. We can we no longer live normal lives, but we certainly live meaningful lives.
Correct.
But would you agree that something has definitely changed in the last, as things have got worse and worse in the last few years, there's more and more people waking up, but that process, which we all went through, it takes a few years to complete, becoming, I call it the white enlightenment, and becoming racially aware. But have you seen that? Have you noticed that?
I've definitely noticed it. I've noticed it in Babylon before I left, and I've noticed it in Valhalla where I currently reside. And let me tell you, it's very inspiring to see large white families again. It's very inspiring to see people that aren't ashamed, and they'll have a bumper sticker with the Irish flag or the British flag. or the German flag or the Italian flag. They're second or third generation Italian, and they're proud of their heritage, and they won't betray their race. It's a beautiful thing, and honestly, my prediction is this. If I can predict anything, let me look at my cloudy crystal ball that's scratched up and cracked. I predict something akin to Wahhabism. I predict that we will be radicalized through our dispossession. I'm not pushing this for those that are listening, but this is an inevitability. I predict that once we are backed so far into a wall, we will have no choice but to become more clannish. It is the natural order of things. If no one will take our side, we will finally be forced to look at each other and say, fuck it, we take our own side now. Just like what's happening in South Africa. I know it's horrible what's happening there, but you're seeing those that remain, a lot of those who remain, they understand now, holy shit, what have we done? Our progenitors, the ones that voted for this ANC shit, and they understand what the score is. And I think that's what's going to happen to us. I think we'll pull out of it, though. I really do. I think we'll take the skin of our teeth. We'll finally do it, though. We'll pull out of it, and I don't think we'll revisit any of this nonsense we have taken upon ourselves since the 17th century as Enlightenment. We won't take on this whole brotherhood of man bullshit. That will be something we teach in a footnote in the history books, that this was our folly. This led almost to our total annihilation. This is why we are only 3% of the world's population and we have a tiny ethno-state, theoretically. That's what's going to happen, in my view. I don't want it to happen that way, but that's what I see happening.
Yeah, that's I think the future definitely belongs to people like us, because the leftist self-destructive mindset, they cannot adapt
and they don't
to
breed.
change.
They don't breed.
They don't.
They don't breed. So whatever genes select for ethnocentrism as a personality trait, and personality is determined by genes largely, I think those are going to come to the surface more and more and more and more through each successive generation.
Well, they have to, really, don't they?
Yeah.
They do. Or there is extinction waiting for us.
It's got to, because the alternative, which is, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think, I mean, like other nationalists are aware of it, but people are not aware just how horrific it is going to be when these people are the majority. I mean, like, we're talking like white children and women getting beheaded on the streets of England, and all.
Raped.
Yeah, just like, and getting killed daily. All that is going to come as they become.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's really going to be horrific, isn't it?
Well, just look at South Africa. That is our future,
Yes.
but on a much worse scale.
Absolutely.
Because in South Africa, they didn't have radical Islam as well thrown into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many factors.
If we do nothing, that's what's waiting for us. We need to understand that. Everyone who hears this recording, you need to understand. All whites, that is our fate if we do not do our part and reproduce prolifically.
I don't think it's in our blood not to do anything, though.
I agree.
Well, when it comes to having babies, I think, like, I see that as it can only ever be a supplementary thing. I think if we are to win this, at least 90% of non-whites, they have to be somehow deported. That is the only way.
That's obvious. I'm saying as a holding position.
All right, yeah.
Something, I honestly don't think just creating babies is going to turn the tide 100%. We need to supplement it with other things. We have to have many, 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 many different angles we must attack this at so that we can defeat it. If you're using just one thing, that can be spammed against, that can be guarded, there can be a foil used to deflect it. There can be taxes levied upon people of ancestral, not of color, or whatever stupid term they'll use. And they'll charge you £10,000 a year for the privilege of having a child, if you're white. Obviously, there are things they're going to throw at us, but we must not let it deter us. We must fight through it. Our ancestors went through a lot worse than what we're going through, and they pulled through it. We can better them. We can do them proud. We can honor them through the way we live our lives.
Yeah, and like the alternatives, we're either going to be wiped out, and like that, it'll be a kill shot. There's going to be no coming back from it when we're racially wiped out. Yes. Or if we win, we could go on to build, to just like our destiny as a race, it's just unlimited in scope if
We
we,
will colonize the stars.
yeah,
We will leave this
stuff.
planet and we will colonize the stars. We won't just orbit this womb, this Earth. We will colonize other worlds.
Yeah.
Mark my words.
And if we lose, the world will just become a black, brown, desolate planet, really.
Yeah.
Observer, can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, you keep saying that you came from Babylon, which is where you've moved from.
Yes.
Now, I've done quite a lot of travelling in Europe, and I've been to all of these shitholes, all of these awful places that are completely colonised. And you know, you see a civilization that was built by a different people that is now inhabited by the invader. But I'm just wondering, what are your insights on living in a place like that? Because I can't imagine it.
It's very important to always carry a weapon. It is very important to always have your head on a swivel, as they say. It's important to stand tall and proud and show no weakness, even when you feel weak, because they were not on my side. It was important to me to keep my sanity while I was in Babylon, not to assimilate with the dominant multicultural culture, if you will.
Yeah.
So I did not attempt to speak in broken English or use the bastard languages of the alien invaders who lived in Babylon and overwhelmed it. So I didn't play their game. I didn't speak to them in their language or any version of their language. I kept my dealings with them as minimal as possible, because to me, they were quite literally invaders. They were, and they still are, even though I don't live in Babylon, they're still in America. They are outsiders. They're aliens. They don't belong here. Doesn't mean I necessarily want them dead. I'm kind of different from a lot of people in this movement. I honestly don't want anyone to die. I would love for this to be a peaceful and amicable racial divorce where we go our separate ways and we split the pie of territory amicably and all that, but I don't see it happening. I would love that to happen, though. I really would, but I don't see it happening. I like to say, give hate a chance. It's easy when you try, and it saved my life. Part of me coming out of the multicultural worshiping Zionist Christianity thing was being in a multicultural society, and I saw a city and its character was changed over the many years I lived there, and I saw its character and its soul slowly be stripped away and die. I slowly saw the city being raped from within and compromised, and it became the scream of the culture, the scream of the city became too loud for me to ignore. And I finally said, fuck it, after several years of denying it, several years denying what was in front of my eyes. And I said, I have to do something. I have to figure out what's at the bottom of this. Honestly, I spent several years still ridiculing pro-whites as I was becoming racially aware, as I was believing in racial differences. I thought, these guys, they're just full of hate. They don't know what they're talking about. La, 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 la. I can still watch my Japanese anime, or I can still do this or that or the other thing, and, you know, I don't know what their problem is. They're just hateful, just like in Schindler's List, blah, blah, blah. I still swallowed the propaganda. It took me many years to vomit it out. It took me many years, many, many years, to finally get the last extricated from my person. And it's still there, but I'd say most of it's gone. And now I see through the bullshit. And, excuse me, it angers me. It angers me how much our minds have been molested through our whole lives. And they have been molested. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, it has been it's a psychological. I mean, like even in England, kids are taught that we've always been a multicultural country. That blacks and Muslims have always been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
all that bullshit.
I made a video about this not too long ago, and they do it in the mass media as well. They will take, for example, Robin Hood. Now, when I was a kid, I used to watch the BBC show Robin Hood when it was on, and Robin Hood's he was a character that sort of he loved the Saracens. He was like a social justice warrior. He had a Muslim woman. He had a Muslim woman in his band of merry men. Let that sink in.
They're doing the same thing to Doctor Who, I understand. I've never watched that show, the couple episodes. I don't get the deal behind it or whatever, but they're doing the same thing with Doctor Who. His companion's a Bantu chick and all this other crap, and it's just, the whole thing is just preposterous.
They did another thing as well. There was like another BBC show that focused on the legends of King Arthur, and King Arthur was in a multiracial relationship with Guinevere. And of course, this was in an ancient Britain where everyone was, either white but also Pakistani or African, just walking around wearing, knight's clothing or traditional medieval dress and that sort of thing. And if in the minds of young people, this really does consolidate the image that we've always been multiracial. And that
Absolutely.
That is extremely dangerous because not only are they stealing our future, but they're also stealing our past.
Exactly. When kids
we be knights and shit.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen on films portray I think they portrayed Shakespeare as black and just all kinds of mad stuff.
Just a bunch of bollocks, as you guys would say in the UK. Bollocks.
Bollocks. But when kids see that is because their minds are still forming. They see that and they think that is real.
Well, it's interesting, Observer, that you mention Doctor Who, because Russell T Davies, the guy that wrote Doctor Who for many years, he's moved on to Shakespeare now, and he's done his own version of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and in that he's brought in an interracial lesbian couple sort of thing. And
all the more reason to stop watching anything associated with television or BBC
I don't have a television anymore. I got rid of that sort of thing. But it's interesting because I occasionally, let's say once every 4-6 months, I'll watch 5 minutes of it, and you can really see the propaganda. It's scary how obvious it is when you're awakened to these sorts of things.
Yeah, like if I watch a BBC program, the level they've gone to, and I understand that a lot of us have stopped watching it. The problem is most everyday people are still watching it, so it's good to watch it to know what is going on type thing, but it is it's bad when you go from like our own media and what we're all doing as nationalists, and then you watch BBC Question Time or something like that. It's just like Jesus Christ.
Question Time especially, it infuriates me when I watch that show. They'll have half the crowd in Pakistani or Muslim garb, all this bullshit. It's just, and they stack the deck. They really do. They'll have maybe one super lukewarm, almost room temperature right-winger, if you want to call them that, and they'll have 12 Marxists that are anti-white. I cannot watch more than 5 minutes of that shit without it's horrible.
Yeah.
Did you observe it? We were talking about this the other day, but there's like a German version of that kind of show, and there was this Muslim scholar woman on it, and she was talking about how to be German these days no longer means having blonde hair and blue eyes, but it means to wear a hijab and to come from an Islamic background. And the whole audience was applauding this, of course. Did you see that clip?
No, I didn't. I don't have a high blood pressure problem, nor do I want to create one. So I try to minimize my viewing of those things, but I can almost guarantee you such people are picked for the audience just as they are in Question Time. I would bet what I made last year in cash on that, and I know I would double my money.
Yeah, people are more tended to go along with it if they see that the whole audience, applauds these mindsets.
Correct. They want to be part of the in-group, you see. It's basic psychology and herd behavior. We are social creatures. Very few of us can stand alone because our ancestors, to be ostracized from the tribe, in terms of our tribe, our Cro-Magnons or Neanderthals, whatever you want to call them, meant certain death. Because many hands makes the burden easier, makes the hunting easier, the gathering easier. If you're injured, you have somebody who can take care of you. Everything becomes easier, and the odds of survival increase, even when the number of mouths increase. So instinctually, it's very difficult for people to let go from that and understand it's okay if you say a bad word. It's okay if you say something offensive. The world will not end. You're not a bad person. And even if you are, who cares? These people don't like you. They hate you for who you are. Regardless of all the social signaling you do, you will never be accepted by them. Never. Never. So accept your own people. Embrace your own people. And your likelihood of survival will increase. Don't accept some alien. Don't embrace some alien. They are not your friend. They will never be your friend.
That is the thing at this point. I think most everyday whites, they still do not understand when it comes to blacks and Muslims and other foreigners. They do not understand just how much hatred they have for us. They do not care when they see a white getting killed or a white child getting raped. They feel nothing for that.
They revel in white child rape. Look
Yeah.
at what those Packies did in Rotherham, for crying out loud. It's utterly ridiculous. You have the frickin' Bobbies covering the shit. Bullshit. Oh, I don't want to be called racist. They should all be tried. That's the nicest thing I'll say. They should all be tried for treason.
The police did arrest the fathers of daughters that went round to confront these Pakistanis there.
Oh, it's nice they have their priorities in line.
Yeah, but we can't say that shorter P word in this country because we will get arrested, almost certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, heaven forbid you say a word. Oh, the Ministry of Feelings will come after you. Oh, bunch of frickin' idiots that run that country. You guys, you deserve a much better country. I wish if there were some way I could will all of these people to be in chains, I would will it. I swear, I hate these fuckers with the fire of 1,000 suns. I hate what they're doing to England. I hate what they're doing to Europe. I hate what they're doing to America. I hate that they will not allow us to have a right to exist. They will not allow it. So we will come to blows eventually. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it is. I think it is absolutely inevitable that it will come to that, I think.
Day of the rope, gentlemen.
I'm thinking it's going to be fists in the streets, honestly. I think that's going to be where it starts. I think people are just going to have enough, and they're just going to take the streets. It's inevitable. Look at revolutions, and that's another thing about revolutions. Revolutions aren't fomented by the majority. They're fomented by a small, determined, obsessed minority.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. All it takes.
Yeah, well, look at Russia. It wasn't even Russians that fomented the Russian Revolution, was it?
Correct. Absolutely. And they had funding. It helped that they had funding from, I think it was J.P. Morgan and Warburg, two members of the tribe who wanted to destroy Russia and take down the Tsar. Yeah.
The problem is now the multicultural elite political class, because of technology, it's enabled them to really put a stranglehold on the situation. So it's a lot harder for any revolution to happen, kind of thing.
I think they want us to think that, and here's why I'm saying that. Okay. For now, at least, they can't control your thoughts.
Yep.
For now, they can't control what is in your heart. They can't control what you believe. They can try to temper what you believe. They can try with propaganda from a young age. But look what happened to me. Look what happened to many people in this movement that came out of it of their own volition, of their own will, because they were curious. And that's one thing about the white race that the enemy doesn't understand. I would say many whites, not most, but I would say many whites have a natural, innate curiosity about the world. It's why we've accomplished so much in the time we've been on this planet. And through that curiosity, we want to know why. When we're told the answer, we want to know why that is. Well, why is that? Well, you get another answer. Well, why? We want to know the whole thing. We want the whole picture. We want it all in front of us so we may understand the world, so we may observe the world, if you will, in a more complete light and understand it more. Because, as the saying goes, knowledge is power, and we want to be powerful. We want to know how the world is for its own sake, not necessarily just for the knowledge, but just because learning is fun, motherfuckers. And our curiosity cannot be stifled. And when we see the double standard, that's another thing I neglected to mention. When I saw the double standards in the media against white people, I started to wonder why that was. And it was all these questions which finally bubbled to the surface that helped me to finally take that step and become the evil, terrible, horrible person I am today. So I think there will always be a way for us to resist, and resist we will. There is nothing they can do to prevent free thought. They can try. They can shut down the internet, but there will be murmurings. There will be rumors in taverns, like I mentioned. The populace will become more. I don't know. There will be a lot of traitors, of course, that'll level accusations against their neighbor in order to get goodies from the government. See Bolshevik Russia for that. What Stalin had happen during his purges. Innocent people getting sent away to the gulags who never spoke as a reactionary or did anything reactionary-like. But we need only look at history to know revolution will not be stopped. It is a natural thing like birth. You may try to slow it down, but eventually it will happen. It's going to happen, and it is inevitable. And that's one of the things that keeps me at peace.
And the alternative, it's like one of the most profound changes in America is what's happened to Detroit.
Yes, absolutely.
That in particular shows you. But I mean, like, having blacks colonise a town or city, it's essentially like it been bombed by a nuclear bomb. It's like a biological weapon, isn't it?
I saw quite a funny picture about this. It contrasted Hiroshima today and Detroit today, and it said it's better to be hit by a nuclear bomb than it is by diversity.
I agree. Look at Detroit. They're hardly building any cars there, yet in Hiroshima they're building Mazda Miatas, for crying out loud. I mean, you can't contrast the two. Detroit used to be known as the Paris of the United States because it was a beautiful city with great architecture, neoclassical architecture, and a booming industrial sector. And now look at it. It's a shadow of its former self. It's mostly welfare rolls. They can't even keep lead out of their water, for crying out loud, in Flint, Michigan, which is close to Detroit. So the whole thing is messed up. I mean, the evidence is everywhere.
Yeah, you can see these parallels all over Europe as well. I was in Italy quite recently, and I went to Naples, and I'm walking around these streets, and there's all these beautiful centuries-old churches, and they're just completely in rubble. They've got boards all over the windows. The signs in the streets are in Arabic. You do not see any Italians there. No Italian restaurants. It's all kebab shops and that sort of thing. The whole place just falls apart, and they lose tourism because as a tourist, there were not many.
That's not what you want to see. You'd go to Beirut if you wanted to see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Paris. I understood. I read an article not even a couple days ago. Very prescient. You mentioned that, Duke. Paris is losing a lot of tourism due to their enrichment of diversity. Because no one finds it attractive to see a Congolese go jub 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 when you're trying to stand in front of the Arc de Triomphe or the Eiffel Tower. They don't want to see that. They want to see Frenchmen and Frenchwomen being snooty, smoking their French cigarettes and eating their baguettes and wearing their hats and striped shirts. They want the romantic image of France. They want to see real French people.
Exactly.
That's what they want.
Yeah, like these white cultures, what have taken thousands of years to develop, that is what is the beauty of each nation.
Correct.
And for these two, I mean, like one of the most powerful memes I've seen is the one that shows you different European flags. I mean, it shows you what is classed as German and British now, and it showed you black infantry flags. Like, it said this is what used to be German, Swedish, British. Now this is what is classed as German, British, and it showed you blacks, and that was quite a powerful meme.
They're trying to make us interchangeable. They want to break down everything that makes us unique. They want to destroy what is beautiful in this world because they can't produce beauty on their own. All they can do is parasite off of us.
Exactly. Yeah. That is one of the main things. But just the way our identity and as purpose for living. And as pride and identity, the way they've just stolen and just like destroyed that and just aggressively like snatched it away from us.
Yeah, I believe Karl Marx said that if you can cut a people off from their identity, they can easily be persuaded.
Absolutely, because they have nothing to believe in, so they'll believe in anything. And if you control the media, you control the message, and most people consume that media and that message, they're going to internalize it. It's going to become a part of who they are. It's like what you eat in the physical world. You eat garbage food, you're going to be a garbage person. You eat great food, you're going to be a great person. You're going to be the best you can be. We need to consume only the best media. We need to read only the best books, listen to the best music. We need to cut ourselves off from all this mass media garbage. It's vending machine media. It's garbage. We need to understand that.
That's the thing. 60 years ago, as whites, we all had a purpose. We knew where we were going. We knew what we were, and we knew what we wanted. But now everybody's depression is at its highest it's ever been. Suicides, I think suicide is the biggest killer of white men, and it's no wonder, is it?
No, it's no wonder at all. We've been cut off from our rightful birthright of mastery of this realm.
And that has to be the effects of multiculturalism and immigration. That must be one of the main reasons that's causing this suicide, and that taking away of the white male identity.
Yes, it's almost criminal to be a straight white male now. It's almost criminal to assert your dominance in a sphere as a straight white male, but don't let them stop you.
Oh don't. Yeah, and then what tops it off on telly? On quote-unquote mainstream TV, they'll only allow cuckolded whites and like feminized white men to represent us.
And then there's people saying Milo is on our side. He's a member of the tribe and he's an interracial, race-mixing homosexual. Well, just because he says some stuff against feminists doesn't mean he's on our side.
I think that, like, when it was sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no problem.
I think people like that Milo, personally, this is my thing, I see him as the actors like portals into becoming more politicized.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I'm not discouraging people like them to do what they're doing, but like I said earlier with Trump, Donald Duck, we need to be very careful and understand that most of these people are frauds. That's why they're in the media. They're frauds.
Maybe we can see them as our own useful idiots.
I was thinking that too. We could use them to our own ends, for our own ends, maybe indirectly. We can't really guide them because they have their marching orders, but if we can use them to get the conversation started around the water cooler or in the pub, all the more. That's great. That's great.
Okay, so just to finish up then, Observer Returns, mate, do you just want to give any final thoughts and tell people where they can find you, please, mate?
You can find me in Valhalla, land of beautiful white families all over the place, surrounded by gorgeous trees. On YouTube, and Observer Returns. You just search for that channel. I think I'm the only one that calls himself such a ridiculous name. And my message to any and all whites who listen to this right now, or maybe a few years in the future if this is still up somewhere, don't give up. Never give up. Never surrender. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your ancestors who watch you, and you owe it to your children yet unborn. Do not give up. You have no right to give up. That is not a decision for you to make. You must persevere. We will win this, but only with your help. Thank you.
Right, nice one. Duke, have you got anything you want to say, mate?
Yeah, I just would like to echo the Observer's sentiments that nothing else really matters in life apart from the proliferation and survival of our people, and that's what we should totally dedicate ourselves to. We should not make this any sort of a hobby or try to gain profits from this in any sort of way. This should be our life's mission now. We should always work towards furthering the 14 words.
Right, nice one. Right, so yeah, I think we'll wrap it up at that, guys. Thank you for coming on, Observer, mate.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, Duke, of course. So, and to everyone listening, thank you for listening, guys, as always, and we'll see you soon. So, thank you for listening, and goodbye, and see you later, guys.
See you later.
Cheers.